We're up near Bald Mountain. Some people call it Mount Baldy in the Uinta Mountains. We're up here taking a look around because it's a Bigfoot sighting hotspot, specifically here for one woman's Bigfoot sighting that happened not too long ago. We'll show you guys around the area and we'll tell you about her Bigfoot sighting.
The Uinta Mountains of Utah get so much rain every year, it's considered an inland rainforest. So it's not surprising when you start looking at the sighting reports in Utah, and the Uinta Mountains is the epicenter of these Bigfoot sightings, and then they spread out from there. So many Bigfoot sightings in the Uintas and surrounding areas. This Bigfoot sighting was reported to us by a family that was out camping and had a good long look at this Bigfoot. Mama Giebler writes to RMSO. The camera's pointed at Mount Baldy, or Bald Mountain. Here's her report. We were camping up in the Uintas in August of 2014. I'm not sure of the exact day. It was a weekend just before school was to start up again. My husband and our 5 grandkids, we were camping right next to Bald Mountain, about 250 yards. There were a few other campsites occupied also. We went up on a Thursday. We decided just to sit around and relax a bit. It was about 2 p.m. We had grabbed a sandwich on the way up, so we were all going to go for a hike. My husband said everyone do a bathroom break, so he went into the shower toilet tent we had set up, and me and the kids were just sitting in some chairs by the fire pit. It was then my 13-year-old granddaughter said, "Look at that running on the hill." I looked up and saw what I thought was a large man in a black jogging suit with a hoodie, sort of jogging down an incline. I called to my husband that something must have happened. A man was running down this steep trail and maybe someone was hurt. Well, then it started to rain and we didn't have the tent set up yet. So me and the kids went inside our utility trailer. We were watching this, what I thought was a person. He was still going down this ridge. My husband was still unavailable and getting annoyed at me for telling him to come look. Then the grandkids were all fighting to look out the door and to spot whatever was going on. It was at that moment I realized what we were watching, when my granddaughter started getting scared and said, "He's watching us." So I turned back to the hill and saw this figure watching us. It just stood there, looking back at us, and then after a few minutes, it looked like it had just sat down. I was watching it and trying to get the kids to settle down. It had stopped raining, and I decided to try and spot it with the telescope. We had taken it out and covered it so that we could look at the stars later that night. Well, the telescope didn't work. Everything was a blur. And of course, we didn't pack any binoculars. Anyway, me and the girls were a little uneasy, so we slept in the utility trailer on an air mattress. My husband slept on a hammock, and there the boys slept in the tent. I was still very unsure of what we saw, but I didn't sleep well that night. The next day we got up, and we were the only campsite there, which we thought was strange because it was only Friday. Anyway, we weren't sure if we had to pay for the campsite, and then we drove up there and weren't any envelopes to drop the money in. So my husband and one of the boys went down to the road, about 12, to pay. As they came back up the road, they saw hundreds of people on the mountain ridge with cameras. When I saw some hikers on the same ridge, I knew it wasn't a regular person we had been watching the day before. He was twice as tall, and even his thighs were enormous compared to these other hikers. So we decided it was time to go find another campsite elsewhere down the mountain, and so we did. Funny thing was, we set camp and slept. When we woke up, all the 5 or more of the campsites had got up earlier and left. We were the only ones there. We didn't talk about it because we didn't want to scare the kids, but I was a little freaked out about the whole ordeal. We stayed one more night and came home. We didn't go camping at all the next year. We went last year to the other side of Bald Mountain. It was a lot quieter. I only know I will not go camping or hiking without my binoculars again. This is Kelly Shaw with RMSO reporting from the location of Bald Mountain, or Mount Baldy, whatever you prefer to call it. I would like to thank you for sending us your Bigfoot sighting report, Miss Giebler. These reports help us understand a little bit more about Bigfoot, about how Bigfoot acts. Very curious creature. It stopped and watched you and your family's campsite. Can only imagine what goes through this creature's mind. In my opinion, the creature's much more prehistoric, lives a lot more prehistoric than man. You can just imagine looking at our technology, our cars, our trailers, our homes. Regardless of what the creature thinks about us, it has primitive life, more of a primitive lifestyle than we can imagine. Perhaps lives in caves. We think it may make structures. We do a lot of Bigfoot research in the Uinta Mountains. We find structures in and around Bigfoot sighting locations, especially hot spots. Don't know if Bigfoot makes them or it's just a coincidence that we're finding places that people are throwing logs around, making structures on inclines. Makes absolute no sense to camp on a steep incline, so those structures really puzzle us. I see some of these teepee style structures and I'm like, oh yeah, you throw a tarp around it and perfect makeshift shelter. You only had to hike up with the tarp. But I don't know anyone that will set up camp on a 35-45 degree angle on a mountainside, so that's really strange. I don't know, maybe Bigfoot likes to lay at a 35-45 degree angle. I don't think so. I have to go with some of the tribes of Indians in the Pacific Northwest that these are territorial markers. Les Stroud was telling me when I was on an expedition with him that some of the tribes were telling him every time a new baby's born into the family, they'll make a structure and they'll put the amount of logs in the structure as family members. Out of all the structures that we have on our GPS map overlay study that we started back in 2012 and 2013, 2 of the structures we have seen logs added to the structures. One up on Yellowstone Canyon and one in Sasquatch Canyon. We didn't name this canyon Sasquatch Canyon. It was named in the 70s by hunters, nicknamed Sasquatch Canyon on the south side of the Uintas because of all the Bigfoot sightings and the footprints found there. We saw where a log was added to the structure, and we even saw where it was laying on the ground, so we know it didn't fall into place. Someone picked it up and shoved it into place. Who knows why they're building the structures? Maybe those 2 areas, just like the Pacific Northwest Indians say, a baby was born into the tribe or the family, and they added a log to represent that child. I hope you guys enjoyed this Bigfoot sighting report. We're in one of the biggest hot spots of Utah, the Uinta Mountains, and we just love researching here. Thank you for the Bigfoot sighting report. If you guys want to go and see the original report that was submitted to us, we will leave a link down in the description with her written sighting report. We feel that you get to look into the life and character of the person that sent us those reports. We really appreciate your reports. Anybody else has a Bigfoot sighting report in Utah, the Rocky Mountains, the Pacific Northwest, or anywhere in the United States or the world, we want to hear about it. Send us your reports. Keep on watching. We're going to keep on squatching.